Now we can see what the hell we're doing. And I'll take a moment to allow for people to accumulate. We've done a few of these already. We looked at Saturday morning cartoons and after school cartoons and holiday specials and things like that. And we've looked at anime DVDs and kaiju monster stuff like Godzilla and Gamera. And we looked at vintage television shows. I've got a big collection of vintage television shows. And of course, it just doesn't stop because naturally we love our physical media. And so here we are looking at more physical media, and we are in the comedy DVD section. Comedy DVDs, and there's some Western stuff down there. And I know I have more Western stuff than what's down there, but they are somewhere else apparently. And we do have a lot of stuff that's still packed up, whether it's in totes, stored in the garage or whatever. And then this is like a hodgepodge of I don't know what the hell's in there. And that's all my wife's stuff. It looks like a lot of actually the first 2.5 rows there look like DC animation. Pretty much Batman, 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 Batman. And that's LPH's section over here. And then just whatever down on the bottom rows. But this is where we're focusing today. This is what we're looking at today. And I see Austin Bird is here. Glad you could join us today. Thanks for stopping in and being part of the stream as we do another one of these. Another one looking at physical media. It's a lost art. Physical media is getting to be a lost art because they just don't have it anymore. Or they have it, but they don't really push it like they used to. Even Best Buy has completely eliminated their DVD section. There's no more DVDs, there's no more CDs there. They don't sell computer discs anymore. Nobody's got that stuff. Nobody's got that stuff anymore. They've done away with it. And you can feel that push. Even modern computers no longer have a disk drive because you're just supposed to either download or stream everything. And I think you give up a lot that way. You give up a lot that way when you give up this physical media because you don't know what's going to happen to it. It may disappear one day. It may be altered. I mean, you see it on the streaming sources all the time, or streaming services, where you go looking for a show or a movie you've been watching and it's gone because they don't have it anymore, or it could be altered. Something they alluded to a lot in the show The Critic with Jay Sherman, where his boss kept changing things. Duke, he was altering the endings of films using computer technology. And they had a big to do about that. And you saw an example of it also. I believe it was on Amazon Kindle, and the books 1984 and I think Animal Farm disappeared from everybody's Kindles. And that was a few years ago. It was some years ago. And Kay Munin has joined us. I'm glad you could make it today. They disappeared from the Kindles and everybody complained and they put them back. Something to think about when you consider, oh yeah, it's so easy and you get a minimalized space and then what happens when they take it from you or change it on you and then you don't realize. But, I'll get off my soapbox. On the top row there, these are some of the shows that we're currently watching now, and it's sitting out here, and it should be in with the television shows that we saw last time. And there is the 90s Flash, the Barry Allen Flash, one season. Season 2 of Wonder Woman. Knight Rider with terrible music. It is legitimate 80s music. You recognize it like hey, that's Tears for Fears. Hey, that's Tina Turner, whatever. But then it's not the actual original song. It's someone else singing it. Sometimes it's even David Hasselhoff singing it because he was a singer. And I'm like, God, you got to be kidding me. It's just so cheesy when you compare it to shows like Miami Vice that did not edit the music. I suppose that was cheaper. The Wonder Years, which we just started recently, and the Wonder Years, um, 6 seasons right there. So far, so good. It's actually really well written. Kind of a depressing show. It's kind of sad. I mean, it's funny, but a lot of the premise is pretty sad. But I just hope that they're able to keep it up. You know what I mean? I hope they're able to keep it up because writing can get wonky after a while. It can. And Cam Munin said that physical media is the only way to go. It's the only way to guarantee it won't be what? Um, Deleted. There we go. From underneath your nose. Yeah, I can't always see it very well. It disappears on me. But looking at the comedy movies, looking at the comedy movies here, starting left to right, I do everything alphabetical order. Something might be out of order, but you never know. 9 to 5. Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Dolly Parton. And I never got this film. This actually spawned off into a TV series. It had one season. It had one season. It was a bad show. And this is not that great of a film, even though it's highly popularized. It's just too unrealistic of a premise. Because even back then, I mean, the boss was harassing the secretaries. Report him. He has people over him, or quit, or do something. Sue the place. No, they kidnap him and they hold him prisoner for months. No sense. And they get away with it. And I'm like, come on. 30 minutes or less, which I hardly remember this film because that's how just not that big of a deal it is, I guess. 40-Year-Old Virgin. I've seen it once. I don't know if it would hold up if I watched it again. One of those kind of deals. And I get that way about a lot of stuff. I go to watch it a second time and I'm like, maybe it wasn't so good in the first place. And Austin said physical media will always be king. It should be. 1941. This is a rated film, I think. It's a Steven Spielberg. I think it's his one and only attempt directly at comedy. John Belushi as the pilot. Dan Aykroyd is the tank commander. 1941. They are not at war. They are in the United States. I actually, and the ventriloquist scene is classic, is classic. And if you haven't seen the film, you don't know what I'm talking about. But the ventriloquist scene, the subtlety of it, I think is fantastic. Airplane, Don't Call Me Shirley edition. And, uh, Leslie Nielsen there, of course. And Leslie Nielsen, who was a dramatic actor, and he got into comedy because it just paid better and he could get parts more often, quite frankly. But this is a good parody movie, and they haven't done a good parody film in a long time, I don't think. Ollie G, the movie. Tch, the silliness of it I enjoyed, but not so much the vulgarity of the character. Although he has worse characters, trust me. He's got his other characters like Borat and the other one I can't remember the German character are almost intolerable. But the Ollie G character, it's almost kind of sad because there are people that are this dumb, quite frankly. Analyze This with Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal, I think he's fully retired at this point. Haven't heard from him in a long time. There was a sequel to this called Analyze that was not as good, but I'll get on my soapbox about that over and over and over again. A lot of films didn't need a sequel. This is one of them. Most films didn't need a sequel. Speaking of which, Anchorman. It was a clever movie. It didn't need a sequel because there's Anchorman 2. Anchorman 2 is not good. It just isn't. It isn't good. Animal House, another classic. John Belushi. And Dan Aykroyd, I think, was one of the writers on this, if I remember correctly. And he basically just collaborated. He's like, every crazy college experience story we can think of, let's merge it together into one film. And John Belushi really, I don't even think he had a script. They basically just let him be John Belushi because that's how he was in real life. Look up stories about John Belushi. He was a weird guy. Munin says some movies are great the first time you watch them. Second time, you wonder what you were on when you first watched it. Yeah, I felt that way about The Mask with Jim Carrey. I watched it in the theater. I thought it was okay. I tried to watch it again, and I'm like, this is actually pretty bad. Away We Go, I never saw this one. I have the disc, but I never watched it. The Back to the Future trilogy. And where's Johnny Future when you need him? Johnny Future is big on Back to the Future. I haven't seen this in a long time, and I saw these in theater. I saw these in theater. This doesn't need a sequel. Please don't do it. Bad Santa. I like the premise. A lot of vulgarity though, and I'm not a fan of that. And they again it had a sequel. I didn't see the sequel. Bananas with Woody Allen. Weird movie. Weird movie. And a very early Sylvester Stallone in this, playing a thug on the subway who beats up Woody Allen. He doesn't even get credits in the film. He's not even credited in the film, but you know it's Sylvester Stallone. Bad News Bears, the original Bad News Bears, which has been redone, and the recreation, the reboot, not very good. Not very good. Batman the movie, and this is literally the Adam West Batman film to go with the TV show that was done in the 60s. This is fun. It's goofy. It's goofy just like the show. It's a lot of fun if you're into the 66 Batman. The original Beetlejuice, waiting to see whether or not it was worth it for them to do a sequel, because the sequel is coming, and we will see. We will see. There's been a lot of sequels recently, and I don't know how well they're going to hold up. I've got this is a throwback. Beach Blanket Bingo and How to Stuff a Wild Bikini. Remember these kind of movies when you were kids? Used to see this on like the Saturday matinee on UHF. Stupid movies, but they're fun. Mr. Bean and Johnny English. Now, I've seen the Mr. Bean, but I have not seen the Johnny English. And, I like Mr. Bean. Beverly's Beverly Hills Cop. The original Beverly Hills Cop. There were four now, because they just did one, and it got mixed reviews, which I figured. But the original one is the one that's good, in my opinion. The sequels I didn't think were very good. It's another one that didn't need sequels. Chris Farley, Beverly Hills Ninja. Stupid movie, but it's fun. It's fun. Tom Hanks in Big. And this is a really well done comedy. This is a cool movie. It's one of his better films. Tom Hanks. He's been in a bunch of dogs, so My Big Fat Greek Wedding, very surprisingly underrated. This is a film they didn't expect much from. It had a very small budget, and it made a fortune at the box office, which is proof that you don't need a huge budget to do a good movie if it's well written. And this is a fun movie. It's a fun movie. I recommend Big Fat Greek Wedding. I don't know about the sequel, though. The Bill and Ted two film collection, Bogus Journey and Excellent Adventure. Not the animated stuff. I've never seen the animated show. And I did not see the new Bill and Ted. I didn't see the new Bill and Ted. I heard it really kind of sucked. I don't know. But the that after the fact, people were like, hey, actually, that film's kind of fun. Another Chris Farley, Black Sheep. And, Chris Farley stuff is kind of kind of fun for the most part. Blank Man with Damon Wayans, where he's a superhero Blank Man. This is a fun movie too, and it's another one that people have just kind of forgotten ever existed. The Blank Man. The scene with him in the police station explaining that he is a superhero is classic. Blues Brothers, another film that didn't need a sequel. Yeah, I'll keep going because I got issues. Another film that did not need a sequel. This was good enough. This was good enough. This is a classic film. Blues Brothers is really well done. Now, here's your Brady Bunch collection. And this is the Brady Bunch movie, which is a film adaptation of the stage production. And it's a Broadway play of the Brady Bunch, or there was, where they made fun of all the famous scenes from the Brady Bunch and they put it into the film. This is fun. All three of them, actually. A Very Brady sequel, and then Brady Bunch in the White House, which for some reason the kids are younger here, but this was enjoyable, actually. I like these films. It was fun. Bruce Almighty, which also had a sequel that didn't need to exist. This one was okay, although not biblically accurate at all. But what are you going to do? It's a movie. Bruce and Lloyd, Out of Control, never saw it. I have it, never saw it. Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor. This is a good movie. This has also been redone. And the reboot is not as good as the original. Go figure. Burt Wonderstone. It was okay. This was okay. Caddyshack, the original, which had two sequels that are both garbage. This one, to be honest, it's fun and it's got a strong 80s vibe. It's not really that good of a film. And the acting is absolutely atrocious, except for, what the hell is his name? Ted Knight. Ted Knight busted his ass acting in this, but Ted Knight was a professional. The rest of these people were not. They did a terrible job. They did a terrible job acting in this movie. I mean, it's still classic 80s, and I would watch it again, but it's not that great of a film. Bill Murray, he couldn't act to save his life. He got better as years wore on, but Bill Murray was in those days not a good actor. Chevy Chase didn't even try, you know. And oh God, what was his name? Rodney Dangerfield. He wasn't an actor, and he said so. I mean, whenever he did a film, he was like, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing." California Suite. Here's one everybody forgot about. And look at the star power in this. Jane Fonda, Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby, Michael Caine, Alan Alda. There's big names in this. Weird movie. If you've never seen it, you might want to check it out. Cannonball Run. This had a sequel too. It again not as good as the original, but you know, Burt Reynolds, Farrah Fawcett, Dawn DeLuise, Roger Moore. And believe it or not, Cannonball Run is based on a true story because there was an illegal race that did used to take place on a regular basis cross country called the Cannonball Run. And the film's plot is based around some of the antics or stories that came out of those races. And Munin says, what do you think of Jeff Dunham? I've seen him. He's okay. You know, my kid is really into Jeff Dunham, actually. And he says, Caddyshack is another film I can't understand why people enjoy it. Yeah. Casino Royale, the original pre-Bond Casino Royale, starring Peter Sellers. Orson Welles and Woody Allen are in here, too. And Peter Sellers and Orson Welles had to be filmed in two separate locations as if they were together because they couldn't stand each other and the static was so bad that they had to make sure they kept separate. Casper? Casper the Friendly Ghost? That was a fun movie. I've got the puppets from Pizza Hut. Caveman, terrible film, starring Ringo Starr. but, goofy enough that it's a fun watch. Champagne for Caesar with Vincent Price. This is a cool movie. This is fun. And a lot of people don't realize that Vincent Price was in a lot of comedies. He did a lot of comedies. Vincent Price did a lot of everything. A Christmas Story, classic holiday film. There's nothing I can tell you about A Christmas Story you probably don't already know. Clerks, the original Clerks, the one that's actually good. The sequel is hard to watch. The sequel's hard to watch. The original Clerks is classic. And the cartoon was fun too. What is this? Oh, Clint Eastwood films. I've got this on here. Honky Tonk Man and Space Cowboys is not comedy, but the Every Which Way But Loose and Every Which Way You Can are, and they're fun movies. They are fun movies. Clint Eastwood, I can't think of a bad film that Clint Eastwood was in. Can you? Clerks 2, that's out of order. And I may as well not even have this because I'll never watch that again. It's just awful. Coming to America, another film that did not need a sequel. And this one is timeless. This one is timeless. It's one of those films you can watch anytime. It's one of Eddie Murphy's best films. It's better than Beverly Hills Cop, which feels very dated, actually. Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. This is the sequel to the first one. And I've never seen this, but I have seen the first one. And he probably didn't need a sequel. Deck the Halls. Danny DeVito and Matthew Broderick. I don't remember this movie. I didn't even realize I had this. Well, there you go. Defending Your Life. Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep. This is interesting. It has to do, he dies and he's on trial. Interesting film. Interesting concept. Delivery Man. If you've never seen this one, it's a good story, and it's not the usual type of film you would see Vince Vaughn in. He's not all vulgar and creepy in this, if you catch my drift. And The Deuce Bigalow with Rob Schneider, Male Gigolo 1 and 2. It was fun. Dickie Roberts, former child star. That was a cool film. David Spade. The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy. This one is, if you've never seen it, you need to. It talks a lot. It's a comedy. It's well done. It talks a lot about corruption in government. And the stuff they talk about, it's the truth. Truth in cinema. Well worth checking out. You never hear about this movie. Dr. Strangelove, Peter Sellers. Weird movie, but fun. Really fun. And Slim Whitman is in this, and Slim Whitman as the bomber pilot. It's really weird. Will Ferrell and Elf. Probably his best film. I'm not a fan, really, of Will Ferrell all that much. Will Ferrell, like most Saturday Night Live alumnists, he has one dial. How much Will Ferrell do you want? You want Will Ferrell on 3, on 5, on 7. Not Chris Farley. Chris Rock is the same way. Chris Rock is Chris Rock in everything he does. There is no depth to his acting skill. Same thing with Will Ferrell. It's just how loud do you want him to be? But it worked well in Elf. Elvira's Movie Macabre with 2 films. I used to watch Elvira. I have not watched this, though. But I got it for nostalgic purposes. Bunch of Ernest stuff. You remember Ernest P. Worrell. The Essential Collection. He was in a lot of films. And he started with 7-Eleven, didn't he? Doing 7-Eleven commercials as this character. And branched off into movies, and I'm sure there's more than that. Ferris Bueller, another classic 80s film. And it spawned a TV show that did not star Ferris Bueller, but it was set up exactly the same way. Vin Diesel, Find Me Guilty, based on a true story, I think. but good acting depth from Vin Diesel in this film. Not what you would expect. Ford Fairlane, because why not? Andrew Dice Clay. The candle in the wind. He burned brightly and faded out quickly. Once upon a time could fill football stadiums and be on pay-per-view at the same time. And then overnight, nobody wanted to touch him. Fast Times at Ridgemont High. A lot of 80s staples in here. Fun with Dick and Jane, the original with George Segal and Jane Fonda. This was redone with, what is his name? Jim Carrey. I think this was redone with Jim Carrey. Galaxy Quest never got a sequel because Alan Rickman is gone. Garbage Pail Kids. This ought to be in the horror section. This is weird. This is 80s weirdness at its best. You got to watch it to believe it. I don't even know where to start. Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Fun movies. They're fun. They are. Again, Bill Murray acting. He was not a good actor in this, but that part was never written for him anyways. It was written for John Belushi, but he died. So what are you going to do? You get Bill Murray. And Harold Ramis, of course, was in this, and Harold Ramis is gone now. And you know what's really funny? I didn't even get to the movie yet, but I know it's in here. Groundhog Day was directed by Harold Ramis. And if I remember the story correctly, and he wanted anybody but Bill Murray in it. He did not like working with Bill Murray. But it worked out, and actually Groundhog Day is probably one of Bill Murray's best films. The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. This is a great movie. This is a great movie. It spawned a TV show. There was a TV show. I don't know how many seasons. I don't remember. I remember watching it when I was a kid. This movie is really good. If you've never seen The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, she moves into the house. The house is haunted by dude. But he really likes her and he really watches out for her. It's like you have a good ghost. Goonies. Another 80s classic. Films, again, it's okay. It's not a stellar movie, but it's okay. And it's fun to watch. Gremlins, the first one. I don't have Gremlins 2. A lot of 80s classics, as I pointed out. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Jim Carrey. I don't know if I would watch this again. It's not true to Dr. Seuss at all, and this is not a kid's movie, trust me. There's Groundhog Day. That's what I was just talking about. One of Bill Murray's best. He has learned how to act by now in this film. And I would like to see a director's cut, because the deleted scenes are in here, and the deleted scenes are really good, actually, and they should not have been cut from the film. I know that sometimes you just have to, but it's worth seeing the deleted scenes from this. As we move on, Grumpy Old Men and Grumpy Old Men 2, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau. This is fun movie, really fun movie. And there's the sequel, because there are two. If you've never seen Grumpy Old Men, it's worth it. Harvey with James Stewart is another fun movie. Harvey and his imaginary friend. Or is he? High School High with John Lovitz. Another parody movie of high school. This is a fun movie too. It's a 90s film. If you've never seen High School High, it's another one that's kind of been forgotten about. Nobody thinks about John Lovitz anymore. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the film, which is not as good as the miniseries from the BBC. Monty Python and Holy Grail, classic. Anything Monty Python for the most part. Home Alone and Home Alone 2. 2 was enough. It's stupid enough that they forgot Kevin again. I mean, that's just, whatever. But I believe there were 4 of these. But obviously, you didn't get the same Kevin again. You didn't get the same actor. How to Steal a Million with Peter O'Toole and Audrey Hepburn. classic 60s. Howard the Duck. I barely remember this, but I've got it. Idiocracy, which we are living in now. A lot of predictions in here about human behavior. It's a mad, 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 mad world. All-star cast, fun movie if you've never seen it. Fun movie if you've never seen it. And Legends has joined us. He says he finally got Wi-Fi. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I don't remember this film very well, but I find that outside of Clerks, for me, most of these guys' projects, the Jay and Silent Bob projects, as it were, are not memorable for me. And if I go back and I rewatch them, I find them to be so vulgar I can't stand it, and I end up shutting it off. Steve Martin, Wild and Crazy. It's the Jerk, Dead Man Don't Wear Plaid, and The Lonely Guy are in here. The Lonely Guy was a good movie. The Jerk is stupid, but it's fun. There was a sequel to The Jerk. I don't think that needed to happen. Here's another one everybody forgot about. Joe's Apartment. Joe's Apartment started off as a sketch on MTV. It was a short. It was like a 5-minute video short about this guy and the roaches in his apartment. And they can speak to him and they interact with him. They made a full-length film out of it. This is nuts. If you can stomach watching stop-motion roaches, it's a fun ride. It's a cool movie. Joe Dirt, another David Spade film. I liked this movie, actually. John dies at the end. Stupid movie. I barely remember it, to be honest. Interesting premise, but I barely remember it. Johnny Dangerously with Michael Keaton, another forgotten 80s comedy film. I recommend checking out Johnny Dangerously. It's fun. Joe Piscopo is in this too as the main villain. And who remembers Joe Piscopo anymore? Seriously. Kicking It Old School, the breakdancing parody film. This is a rare example of a modern parody film that's actually kind of fun to watch. Most of them are pretty bad. Kingpin with Woody Harrelson and Randy Quaid. And Bill Murray is in this too, I believe. This film was all right. It was fun. Kung Fu Hustle, which I heard they are making a sequel to. If you've ever seen Kung Fu Hustle, comedy Chinese style Kung Fu movie, as well as Kung Pao, and I heard they're doing a sequel to this as well. Although the cow scene, they could have done without that. Last Action Hero, probably the only Arnold Schwarzenegger comedy that doesn't suck. And it has a great soundtrack. Munin says, I can't see myself watching a movie about a dude talking to roaches. But it's Joe's Apartment. That's all right, Munin. Liar Liar from Jim Carrey. Probably his best comedy. I liked Liar Liar and I liked the premise. A lot of his other stuff, it's hard for me to watch, honestly. Lost in Translation, Bill Murray. And again, this is now when he's learned how to act by the time you get to this film. This is one of those films a lot of people have probably never heard of. It's more of a situation or almost a romantic comedy. And you might enjoy that, actually. Mallrats. Yeah, another Jay and Silent Bob film. I don't know if I could ever watch this again. This is another one. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I bet if I watch it, I'll be done in 15 minutes. The Man Who Knew Too Little. Bill Murray in sort of a slapstick style role. And I think it's a recreation of a 60s comedy spy film. Mars Attacks. Stupid film, but it's fun. It's fun. And let me see comments here. It's hard for me to see them, again, because when you have it in landscape, it flashes on and disappears. So RD Vintage says, just started watching your videos, really inspiring me to start making videos myself. No, give it a try. Give it a try. And, it takes a while. It takes a while to find your niche when you start doing videos, but, can't hurt. Can't hurt to try. Meatballs, again, back when Bill Murray couldn't act to save his life. But, and another classic 80s film. Is this just, did this come out in 1980 or just before? I don't remember. I don't remember. The Meaning of Life, another Monty Python classic. Moonrise, what was it? Moonrise Kingdom. Moonrise Kingdom. This is another Bill Murray film, although he's hardly in it. Very imaginative storytelling in this, if you've never seen Moonrise Kingdom. Mr. Saturday Night with Billy Crystal. Interesting movie. Interesting movie. Mystery Men, who I've met this is based on a comic book, and I've met the artist and writer a couple of times, and I can't think of his name right now. But he basically created the Mystery Men, and he had other characters that they decided not to go with when they did the movie. Like he had one character in the comic version that his power was he was a really good guesser. Like if they asked him a question and he took a guess, 9 times out of 10 he was right. Nacho Libre, which is okay. A lot of Jack Black stuff I can't tolerate. Some of it's pretty good. The one where he did, and it was based on a true story, he was the funeral director. That was a really good movie. Jack Black. Napoleon Dynamite, another movie that had like almost no budget that surprised everybody at box office, just like My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Noises Off. And this is another big all-star cast. John Ritter, Christopher Reeve, I think, is in here. Mary Lou Henner. And it's it's a movie about a play based on a play. And all of the fighting that they're doing backstage. And I think Michael Caine's in this too. And it's supposed to be a drama, but it comes off like a comedy, and the people end up actually liking the play better than if it was a drama. It's a fun movie. Nothing But Trouble, Dan Aykroyd. Weird film. Really, really weird. John Candy, you see, is in there as well. Demi Moore. Um, Chevy Chase was in this. There he is. This is a bizarre film, but it's fun to watch. Classic. Ocean's 11, the original with Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack. When a casino was like the size of your living room. And then the Ocean's 11, 12, and 13, which are, remakes with George Clooney. And there's a fourth Ocean's, but it's terrible. The one with all women, awful. Office Space was a fun movie. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Office Space. Sylvester Stallone and Oscar. And this is probably the only comedy I've seen Sylvester Stallone in, just like with Last Action Hero and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's the only one that he ever did that was any damn good. This is fun, and again, it is a Broadway production. It's a stage production that was adapted into film format. But it's a lot of fun. I liked this movie. And I saw it in the theater, too, like 100,000 years ago. And Munin says he should just call the exterminator that many roaches in the apartment cannot be good for your health. Well, they looked out for him. They helped him out. They took care of him. It's bizarre. You have to see the premise. And exterminating them was out of the question, trust me. Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Big Top Pee-wee. Pee-wee's Big Adventure is classic 80s comedy, or 90s. Was it 90s? I think it was 90s. Pee-wee's Big Top is hard to watch. It is so bad. Big Adventure did not need a sequel. Big Top was terrible. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've seen his stage production, the play that Pee-wee is based on. It was fun. Pee-wee's Big Adventure was fun. Pee-wee's Playhouse, the Saturday morning show, was fun. Big Top is the worst thing he ever did. Philadelphia Story. Oh, I don't know if I've seen this. I don't know if I've seen that one. Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny. I've seen it, but I really hardly remember it, which is not a good sign because usually I remember everything. And Tuck says you have shelves of movies I haven't seen. Yes, I've got tons, and it goes on and on. See? I've got tons. The Pink Panther series. This is all of the Peter Sellers Pink Panther films. The last one is not here because Peter Sellers wasn't in it. It was the son of Pink Panther. He died and they couldn't do another one. I love the Pink Panther films. Basically, probably because more nostalgic than anything. Because I used to watch these in Saturday matinee format on UHF when I was a kid. And his accent, his crappy French accent, is hilarious in those movies. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Steve Martin and John Candy. John Candy, and almost everything with John Candy in it is good. This is a fun movie. Popeye with Robin Williams. I saw this in the theater when I was a kid, and I would recommend this as well. I would recommend that as well. And Munin says their Blu-ray DVD collection is like yours, only it's mostly anime. Nothing wrong with that. Porky's and Porky's 2 the next day. Yeah, another one where I don't think it needed a sequel at all. I think the sequel took something away from it. The first Porky's is okay, a little vulgar, but not too bad. Did not need a sequel. This is one you need to see. James Colburn and the President's Analyst. 60s film, very funny, very funny. And the premise is something that we all need to think about in the modern era. Because essentially, it's talking about AI taking over the planet. In the 60s, through computers emulating people at the phone company. Really bizarre. And back then, people are like, that's nuts. It's happening right now. Trust me. It's happening right now. And Eric is here. He says, Popeye was my first movie theater movie. And yeah, like I said, I saw it in the theater. I actually saw it 3 times. Because you know what I used to do when I was in the theater? I'll tell you a secret. It was the on Alston Cinema on Harvard Ave. And I used to go in, buy a ticket, watch the film, hide, and then watch it again. So I actually sat through this 3 times in the theater. Weird Al's UHF. I think this is very underrated. I don't know if he was in another movie, was he? Very underrated, very imaginative, and kind of almost forgotten at this point. People don't talk about this movie, do they? Good movie. Nothing need be said about this one, Princess Bride. Nothing need be said. I'm sure most people know about it. I enjoy this movie. I like this film. Please don't make a reboot or a sequel. The producers, the original producers, Mel Brooks, adapted from the stage play with Cyril Mostel and Gene Wilder. Cyril Mostel, very underrated. Although underrated by today's standards because most people probably don't know who the hell he was now. Massive Broadway actor, huge, like Yul Brynner. This is a fun movie and one of the few films that has a reboot that doesn't suck. The reboot with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane is about as much fun as the original. Rare example of a reboot that doesn't blow chunks. Let me look at the comments really quick. Tuck says AI lets the elected and unelected bureaucrats of the world do even less work and take even less accountability. Austin said my favorite movie is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, 1974. Good choice. And we showed that in previous, the last time, no, the time before, two live DVD media videos back. And I have a big collection of those old kind of kaiju films, and I've got those movies. I love those. They're fun. They're goofy and fun. And Tuck says the Yankovic movie was mentioned in a chat a few weeks ago. The Ref with Dennis Leary. This is a Christmas movie. And, Dennis Leary is another one of these actors, comedians that's kind of faded away. People don't think about him anymore. This is a fun movie. It's worth watching. It's worth checking out, actually. It's really kind of fun. He's a cat burglar. Revenge of the Nerds, the original film, the only film that needs to exist. There were four. There were four. And there was almost a fifth. They were filming Revenge of the Nerds 5, I want to say in 2006. And they filmed for a few weeks, and then they pulled the budget and they shut it down. So they never finished. Revenge of the Nerds 1, it's dumb, but it's, again, a classic 80s film, and it's got that vibe, and it's fun to watch. The sequels were terrible, and each one was worse than the last one. Risky Business with Tom Cruise. I watched it when I was a kid. I haven't seen it since, although I've got the disc, so I can't tell you much about it. I'd have to watch it again. Roxanne, that's going to be Steve Martin. This was fun. And this is like a modern-day take of Cyrano de Bergerac as a comedy, because he's like a fire marshal or fire chief with a big nose, as you see. But that was a fun movie. Ruthless People with Danny DeVito and Bette Midler. This was fun. This was a fun movie. I love how they kidnap his wife and he doesn't care. And they call him and they're like, "We're holding your wife hostage. We want $500,000 or we're going to kill her." And he was like, "I'm not going to pay. Go ahead and kill her. Kill the bitch." It's hilarious. Let me catch up here. Comment. I saw a couple of comments pop in. I try to avoid the side conversation. Munit says the only two Tom Cruise movies I ever saw were The Last Samurai and War of the Worlds. He was in Legend. Legend is a fun watch. Leslie Nielsen's Santa Who. I never saw Santa Who. I bought this because it's got Miracle on 34th Street, the original, not the remake, because the remake is trash. The original is a really good movie, and Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, which is just so dumb it's fun. And I think they did Santa Claus versus the Martians on Mystery Science Theater, if I remember correctly. Richard Pryor, here you got See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Stir Crazy, and The Toy. Three classics. I would have to say my favorite, though, is Stir Crazy out of that. Stir Crazy is my favorite out of these three, but more classics. You know what's funny? The way he portrays himself in the cinema and the way he portrays himself in stand-up, night and day. Night and day. In stand-up, he was really raunchy and offensive. And in the films, it was an entirely different animal. Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell. Movie was okay. That movie was okay. Shallow Hal with Jack Black. Probably one of his best films. Probably one of his best films because the storytelling is really good in this. Sideways, I don't think I've seen. Slapshot with Paul Newman. This is a fun movie. It's dumb, but it's fun. You know how it is with that kind of stuff. Smokey and the Bandit. And I have Smokey and the Bandit 1, 2, and 3. This is another film that did not need a sequel. Smokey and the Bandit, the first one, is classic. This is a lot of fun. A lot of fun to watch this movie. And Jackie Gleason as the sheriff is hilarious. 2 and 3 are terrible. 3 is so bad, Burt Reynolds wouldn't even be in it. He saw the script and he was like, "Nah, forget it." But the interaction, Jackie Gleason is in all 3 films, and his interaction is really good in all 3 films. but it's not enough to watch it. I would just seek out the clips with Jackie Gleason from the second and third movie. The Smurfs, just because I love the Smurfs, and I don't think they did too bad of a job on this film actually. The live action Smurfs. I saw this with my kids, um, and in super 3D at in the theater. Now that 3D actually works. Spaceballs, that's another one I don't need to tell you anything about. I hope they never reboot this. Spaceballs is classic. Space Station 76 had a lot of potential. I think it did not live up to its potential, but I like the premise. Step Brothers, one of the few Will Ferrell films I can tolerate. Step Brothers was fun. I heard they're going to do a sequel. I hope they do not. I hope they do not. Let me see. Eric says prior in the toy was really heartfelt. He definitely was capable of pulling the heartstrings with the right material. Absolutely. Um, and that's true. I mean, Richard Pryor was a skilled performer. He could act. He could legitimately act. And in the films, he did a great job. But on his stand-up was atrocious. And, that's why he got into conflict with Bill Cosby, who called him out on it. He was like, dude, you could do better than this. You don't have to be all raunchy and nasty. And Richard Pryor, of course, just insulted Bill Cosby for it. No, I think Bill Cosby was right. You could do so much better. Stranger Than Fiction, Will Ferrell. This is Will Ferrell on like one. I had said earlier that Will Ferrell does not have very much depth to his acting. Like Chris Rock, not very much depth there. It's a dial. How loud do you want me to get? This is Will Ferrell toned all the way down, but it's a good story. It's a good story. Smoking Aces with Burt Reynolds. This is fun. Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson and Jim Nabors. Yeah, that's Jim Nabors. This is a fun movie. I think this is one that's been kind of forgotten in time, and has one of the greatest cock blocking scenes in cinematic history, courtesy of Jim Nabors. You got to see it to believe it. And tastefully done. It's not trash. Tastefully done. Munin says, do you ever try to remove the stickers from your DVDs? I am OCD about not having stickers on any part of my collection. Some of them, they don't want to come off. Like, especially if it's a sticker that's on there from Goodwill, you'll never get that sucker off. Strange Brew, Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas. You know the Canadians. And a duo so popular that they carried it from SCTV to Saturday Night Live. And this is the live action film based on those characters. And believe it or not, predicted YouTube. The very beginning of this, well, I've said also that Max Headroom, the TV show, predicted YouTube, but so did this. Because if you watch this, the first 5 minutes of it, where it turns out they're doing a film themselves, looks like a YouTube video. It's weird. Ted is okay. Again, it's another film where I like the premise. It's kind of vulgar, but not too bad. Ted 2, hard to watch. I will never see Ted 2 again. It's terrible. It didn't need a sequel. And I know there's a TV show now. I don't know anything about the TV show. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1, 2, and 3. I got them in comedy because I don't know where else to put them. A lot of people don't care for these. I liked them. But what are you going to do? I put them in comedy. I guess you could put them in action comedy. I don't know. But nothing I can say about Ninja Turtles people don't already know. And Tuck says Brewster's Millions was fun. Yes, Brewster's Millions was fun. And I got that up here. I showed it a little earlier. It's up there, Brewster's Millions. And again, it had a reboot, and the reboot wasn't as good. This is Spinal Tap, and this is a movie about a fictional band, as it were, that makes fun of what it's like to be a celebrity rock band. The Three Amigos. The Three Amigos, which is actually a comedy version of The Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner. It is a comedy rewrite of The Magnificent Seven, I believe. But this is a good movie, classic movie. It's fun. I hope they never reboot this one either. It's fine like it is. The Three Stooges, six movie set, and this is when they had. Oh, which Stooge was this? This was the sixth Stooge. They were on Stooge number six, Curly Joe. Was it Joe Besser? No, Joe Besser was the fifth Stooge. Which Joe was this? They were doing cinema by the time Curly Joe rolled around, for the most part. And it wasn't quite the same because Curly Joe would not allow the slapstick. You know how a lot of what the Three Stooges does is centered around pretend violence, where they hit each other or whatever, and he wouldn't allow it. He wouldn't allow it. Three Stooges, the movie, which was a tribute film to the Three Stooges, done by the Wachowski brothers before they got really weird. And this is actually a good homage to the original Stooges. It kind of feels like the original Three Stooges. So, yeah, can't knock that if you're into it. Tommy Boy, Chris Farley and David Spade. Another David Spade film. They did a lot together, actually. You all know Tommy Boy, I'm sure. Another good Eddie Murphy film, Trading Places. This was a fun film. And it has an Easter egg in it. Oh no, you know what? It's actually not this film. Coming to America has an Easter egg from Trading Places in it. If you watched both films, you'll catch it. But this is a cool movie. This one, Coming to America, and The Distinguished Gentleman, I think, are Eddie Murphy's three best films. Transylvania 6 5000. Here's one everybody's forgotten about. There's Jeff Goldblum. There's Ed Begley Jr. Jeff Goldblum is another one. He's a good actor, but not much depth. He always sounds like himself in everything he does. You know what I mean? But he's not a bad actor. He's a good actor. But Transylvania 6 5000, another forgotten 80s comedy. Tropic Thunder, with where Ben Stiller basically makes fun of the concepts of Hollywood and has probably, with Tom Cruise, one of the best dance scenes in cinema. It's hilarious at the end of the movie with the end credits. And what was that? I saw a comment pop in here. Oh, that's side conversation. Oh no, Tuck says he listened to the Christmas song every season my whole life. Just recently learned the rest of the Mackenzie story. I wasn't big on Ted, but I don't much like McFarland stuff in general. Yeah, I don't know if I'd ever see Ted again. I mean, I thought the premise was interesting. I saw the sequel, and the sequel was horrible. Vegas Vacation, and I'm pretty sure I've got National Lampoon's Vacation. It's not here though, but we have other DVDs that are just mixed up. But this is one of those things where, let me see, the first film, National Lampoon's Vacation, was good. The sequel, European Vacation, was terrible. Terrible film. Vegas Vacation was good. Christmas Vacation was good. And the modern incarnation, I have not seen, but I heard it wasn't very good. Uncle Buck. Nothing need be said about Uncle Buck with John Candy. This is a great movie. I love this film. The Water Boy, I saw when it came out, but I haven't seen it since. So I don't remember it very well, which again is not a good sign. If something was good, even if I haven't seen it in like a couple of decades, I usually remember. Wayne's World 1 and 2. Another attempt by Saturday Night Live to take some of their sketches and turn it into a full-length film. These are okay. They're fun. They're fun. It's not brilliant writing, but it's fun. Wedding Crashers. Weird movie, interesting premise. Um, Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn again. Couple of scenes that are a bit racy. It's not too bad. When Harry met Sari, when Harry met Sally, there's Billy Crystal again. Underrated romantic comedy. Most rom-coms, as they call them, I can't stand them. This I can watch. This I can watch. Witches of Eastwick, weird movie. Weird movie, and one of the few films with Cher in it. It's a comedy, obviously. It's worth checking out. Woman Times Seven. This is a weird film. This is Shirley MacLaine, and it's actually seven short stories starring Shirley MacLaine as the lead in each of the short stories. It's interesting, though. It's an interesting movie. They don't do stuff like that anymore. Tuck says Goldblum was scary in The Fly. Yes, I can agree with that. Young Frankenstein, classic. Most stuff from Mel Brooks is. Again, I can't think of a bad Mel Brooks film off the top of my head. Zoolander, it's okay. Not stellar, but it's okay. The sequel is garbage. It did not need a sequel. Sequel was absolute garbage. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. We're no longer in comedy anymore. We've kind of transitioned into westerns. And I don't have too many here, so I'll go ahead and wrap up with the westerns. So Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid had an action figure series. This is a good movie. The Man with No Name trilogy, which is Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Clint Eastwood. Again, just like I just said about Mel Brooks, I can't think of a bad Eastwood film. And he does have a name. It's Blondie. Who knew that? His name, Blondie. Well, that's what they call him anyways. Hang 'em High, another Eastwood film. He's in a lot of great spaghetti westerns. He's in a lot of great westerns. Hang 'em High. John Wayne Collection, which I have not even opened this. I've not even opened this. Arizona Skies, West of the Divide, Texas Terror, Helltown, Desert Trail, Frontier Horizon. Magnificent Seven. And this is the premise from this was adopted for, again, Three Amigos. Fun movie. Classic movie. Once Upon a Time in the West, one of the greatest spaghetti westerns ever put to cinema. All-star cast. Henry Fonda. Charles Bronson is in here. Great stuff. Great stuff. Outlaw Josie Wales. Birds Gotta Eat Same as Worms. Pale Rider. Looks like most of this is Eastwood. I know I have more westerns than this. And then Unforgiven. He won, oh, it says it right there. He won 4 Academy Awards for this. And they don't do good westerns anymore, I'm telling you, they don't. As I catch up here. Tuck says Josie Wales is probably their favorite. But, that's the comedies and some westerns. Taking a look today, and there's plenty more to go. I mean, that's some of LPH's stuff there. And then over there, I mean, we got more. Tons and tons of movies piled up, stacked up. And probably more than I can even find. And there's Monkey having a nap. knocked out. Good form. And there's Dusty. Hi, Dusty. But hey, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Um, Probably not going to be doing another. I don't know if we might do a live Saturday. We might do a live Saturday night. You know, sometimes we do one. And of course, the roundup is tomorrow. And she did some more filming in the museum room while we're cleaning up, but I might put that up Saturday. We'll see. So, hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. Hope you had a good time chatting with us, and we will do this again sometime.